Hi there, and welcome to my guide for conducting a literature search in physics and astronomy. And so at some point during your degree, you're probably going to be asked to investigate a certain topic within physics or astrophysics. And one of the key ways that you're going to investigate this area is by reviewing the literature, finding out what things have already been said in papers regarding that particular area. And so it can be quite hard to begin to start that search. Okay, and so I'm going to take you through some of the steps that I take when I start to have to investigate a new area of physics or astrophysics that I don't know much about, but I'm going to delve into the papers and the online resources that will help me to find out more about a particular area of astrophysics or physics research. So what I'm going to do, so I want to find out more about something known as AGN variability. So AGN are active galactic nuclei. If you're doing a degree in astrophysics, then you might have already come across them. If not, what active galactic nuclei are sites in which black holes that reside at the centre of galaxies are accreting lots and lots of material onto them, so gas and dust. And just before this gas and dust falls into the black hole, it releases vast amounts of energy in the form of light. Okay, and so one thing that we observe these things to do is over time, because their accretion rate changes with time, then they produce more and less light. Okay, so this is known as AGN variability. Now, I've been studying AGN for about 15 years now, but something I've never really looked a great deal into is how they vary. But I know there has been a lot of other research in this area. So what I want to do is I want to conduct a literature search to try and identify the key papers in the area of AGN variability. So I'm going to show you how I go about this, because if you're doing this for the first time, you might not know where to go in the first place. And so if I'm doing this, the very first place I go to is probably the first place that most people will go to. I just do a Google search, okay? So I'm going to show you the processes that I'm going to do in order to start my literature search. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type into Google AGN variability and see what comes back. Okay, and so I've got a couple of resources at the top here. So this is the variability of active galactic nuclei by B.M. Peterson. I actually know the B.M. Peterson, so this is Bradley Peterson. He's a very famous researcher in the field of AGN variability. Okay, and so he's written in an article in the NASA Extragalactic Database, okay, on the variability of AGN. Now, if I click on that, okay, this might be quite a good place to go to just to get some kind of background on AGN variability, but this isn't going to be my main resource for finding out about AGN variability, okay, and I'll explain why that's the case in a few minutes' time. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Google, okay. If I had the time, I might have a look through all of this, read through it. It will give me a good background. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to go back to Google because there's a couple of other things that I want to show you. Okay, and so the key thing that I wanted to show you was something along the lines of this. So we've got another paper here, okay, which is the observational non-stationarity of AGN variability. So this is an article, okay, so if I click on here, what this is, okay, is an abstract that's been posted to something called AstroPH, okay, and so when people write papers in astronomy and astrophysics and a wealth of other different areas of research, when they write a paper and they submit it to a journal, once that paper has been accepted into the journal, they will stick it on this thing known as AstroPH, okay? It's known as the preprint server. All new research, or most new research, gets published to AstroPH. Okay, so what you can do here is you can click on this PDF link here, okay? And that will download a paper, okay? And this shows me a paper about AGM variability. Okay, so that could be, for example, the first resource that I use. But there's something else that I want to show you that really helps with your literature searches. So it can be very difficult to know, well, is this paper, this one by Nevin Kepler, is this paper an important paper? Is it a well-recognised or well-regarded paper in the field of AGM variability? Because what I want to try and make sure when I'm doing a literature search is I want to identify the key movers and shakers within this area, okay? There's hundreds and hundreds of papers published in this area, but most of them are probably not that very, what we'd call it, impactful, okay? So they haven't had a big impact in the field. So what I want to do, if I want to really find out about get a good knowledge of the impactful papers that have been published in AGM variability, what I want to try and figure out is which are the papers that are being highly cited. And to do that, I'm going to use a different service which is known as NASA ADS. Okay, so I'm going to click on this link in here for NASA ADS. Okay, so this gives me the NASA ADS entry for this paper here, Observational Non-Stationarity of AGM Variability. The only way to go is down. Okay, and so this paper, what you can see is that this paper has been cited once. Okay, so it's not been out for very long, so that's fair enough. I think it was published in 2020, so it's published in February 2020, so it hasn't had lots of years to pick up lots of citations. That's fair enough, okay, but it's only been cited a single time. Okay, so it's probably not at the moment a key impactful paper within the field. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to click on the list of references. So this paper references 40 other studies that have been written before this paper. Okay, it refers to these papers within the observational non-stationarity of AGM variability. It refers to Nevin. So Nevin Kepler is referring to these other 40 references. So let's click on those. Okay, and so we can see down here that so these are those 40 papers that this first paper refers to. Okay, so if we wanted to, we could see all of them by clicking on that. Okay, so this is giving us all of the papers that paper refers to. Now, if you go through these, you can think, well, clearly some of these papers must be quite important papers within the field of AGN variability. Okay, and so, but how am I going to find out which of these papers are particularly important? So what I can do is I can view this list in a search result page. Okay, and so now we've got a list. We've got the same list, okay, but now they're presented in as if I've done a search in NASA ADS. And what I'm going to do now is at the moment they are ranked in terms of the first author. Okay, so you've got A at the top, then B, then B, then B. Okay, and so we can look down here. This is in alphabetical order according to the first author. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to rank this in terms of what's known as citation count. Okay, so this is the number of times that each one of these papers has been cited. Okay, and so this at the moment, so this is going from low to high. I'm going to switch it round. I'm going to rank them from high to low. Okay, and so we've got now a list of papers that the first paper refers to, but now listed in terms of how many citations it's got. Okay, and so some of these papers have got huge numbers of citations. So any paper with over, say, about 100 citations would be considered a highly cited paper. These top few ones have got well over 1,000 citations, okay? But most of these papers are not really anything to do with AGM variability. So the first one in particular, so this is a paper that describes the telescope, or one of the most important survey telescopes that's ever been built, so the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, okay? And so that's going to be all about describing the Sloan Digital Sky Survey. There probably isn't a lot in there that actually talks about AGM variability, if anything at all, okay? The reason why it's in there is because Kepler would have cited it because that may be where he got some of his data from, okay? So we're going to scroll down here and start to look for some titles, okay, that refer to age and variability towards the top of this list. So here we are. So we've got a paper here. So this is modelling the time variability of SDSS Stripe 82 quasars as a damped random walk. Okay, so this is a paper by Chelsea McLeod. Okay, this paper was achieved, was garnered 379 citations since 2010. This would be considered to be a very highly cited paper, so it's clearly had a lot of impact within the field of AGN variability. Okay, and so quasars are a type of AGN, very luminous type of AGN. Okay, so I'm going to click on this. Okay, I'm going to click on this link. So now I know that I'm looking at a paper, okay, or at least I'm looking at the abstract of a paper that's had a large impact within the field of AGN variability. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this link here, okay, because I want to download this paper. Okay, so it's downloading now. And I'm going to store that paper in a file. Let's grab that over there. We're going to store that paper in a file, Cosmolojim. There we go. Literature search. Okay, and I'm going to stick that in there. Okay, and I'm probably going to call it McLeod 2010. Okay, give it a name that makes it easy to find. Okay, so I'm just going to stick that there for now. I'm not going to read it right now. There isn't a great deal of point in me reading it during this tutorial, because I'm showing you how to perform the literature search as opposed to reading through a paper. Okay, so I've stuck it in there now. But then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, right, okay, so this paper has been cited 379 times by other papers that are probably also interested in AGN variability. And so previously what we did is we had a paper, so the Kaplan paper, hadn't been cited many times, but it gave 40 different references. In this case, we've now got a paper that since 2010 has been cited many, many times. So probably a lot of the papers that have cited this paper, okay, that have referred to this paper, could well also be important work in the field of AGN variability. So we're going to do the same again, but instead of clicking on references this time, I'm going to click on those papers that have cited the McLeod 2010 paper. Okay, so let's click on that. And again, we can do the same. We can say, okay, so now we've got 379 papers, okay, and I can view this list as a results page. Okay, so now we've got 379 papers that have all referred to the McLeod paper, and again, I'm going to list this in terms of citation count. Okay, so I can find all of the papers, okay, that have received lots and lots of citations that have also referred to the McLeod 2010 paper. Okay, and so then we've got let's have a look. We've got X-rays drive the UV through near-infrared variability in this particular object. So that's a paper written in 2014 with 865 citations. So it's got it appears to have something to do with AGN variability. Okay, it's been cited lots and lots of times. Okay, so that's another paper that's had a key impact within the field of AGN variability. Okay, and so you can scroll down these and you can see, well, which ones of these, okay, have been cited lots and lots of times, but also refer to some form of AGN variability. So there's another one, this quasar optical variability damped random walk. Okay, and so now what I would do is I would search through some of these and try to identify the ones that are going to be telling me a lot about the research that's taking place within the field of AGN variability. Okay, and so then the next thing I may do, so if I go back to that McLeod paper, and so that's by using NASA ADS, it's a very, very quick way of identifying the papers that have had a key impact in a particular area of science, okay, of particularly astronomy, but also physics, okay. Then once you've found a few papers to get you started, then of course you do need to start reading the papers, okay. You need to start looking into the papers, and then a key place for you to look at. Okay, you don't necessarily, at this stage, if you're doing a literature search, you don't really need to be reading the whole paper. Okay, so it's important that you read a whole paper if you are trying to like replicate the method, for example. So that's really important to do. But if you're just trying to get a good idea of the background of a field, then often you can get away with just reading, for example, the abstract, and most importantly, I'd say, reading the introduction, because each introduction, if a paper is written well, each introduction basically gives you a little bit of a literature search and a literature review of all of the research that's taken place up until the point that paper has been written. Okay, so reading introductions of papers can then give you a very good sense of what's going on within the field, within that research field. Okay, and so in a course, a well-written introduction, the well-written paper will also contain references to other papers that you can then use. Okay, so as you're reading your introduction, you can then use those references to go, that sounds like a relevant paper, that sounds like an important paper. Again, if you come across a paper that's referenced in an introduction, you can then search that paper in NASA ADS, and you can check, well, how well cited is this paper? If it's got, say, 5 citations and it's been published since 2005, it's probably not a very big, impactful paper. Okay, but if you've got 500 citations, if that particular paper's got 500 citations since 2005, then that's going to be an important paper, an impactful paper within the field. Okay, so it's probably worth you having a look at it. Okay, so that pretty much sums up how I go about doing a literature search. And like I say, it gives you some kind of tips and techniques to do and to easily do or quickly find, I should say, the most important papers in a particular field of study. Okay.